My name is Matthew Dentith, and this is behind the scenes of my review of Dan Brown's Inferno. So we're not looking at an image of my bedroom here. What we're looking at is a very elaborate set that was paid for by a grant. What happened was that I applied for some money for reviewing the book, mostly to buy a copy of the book. I wasn't going to use my own good fortune to purchase a book by Dan Brown, and because I got one bit of grant funding, it was then really easy to get a subsequent bit of grant funding, which was about $5,000 that could only be used on building sets. Now this was a problem because I was doing a textual review for a website, so the funding that I got required me to build one set. Actually, it turned out we had so much money we built a second one, and then film the review and make use of the fact I got the funding. I had to produce a video, so we've got this behind the scenes documentary essentially about reviewing the book Inferno. So this is a set which is based upon my bedroom at home, but was actually built and installed down at the Britomart Transport Centre down in central Auckland. So this was a Tuesday night, it was cold, it was wet, and there I was sitting in a quite flimsy set reviewing a book by Dan Brown. Stranger things have happened, but not to me. And during the process of this review, I had to do things to try and make the review look interesting. So at this particular juncture, I appear to be drinking whiskey, but actually it's not whiskey. Can't really drink whilst doing these kind of professional acting things. And normally what you'd use would be cold tea, but I can't stand tea, hot or cold. And so we did some research into finding liquids that look whiskey-like that I could pretend to drink whilst doing the review. And we actually settled on flat double brown, because it turns out that no one thinks that double brown is beer, and if it's not beer, it doesn't qualify as being alcohol, and thus I was allowed to drink flat double brown on set. Once again, stranger things have happened, but once again, also not to me. At one stage, our lighting rig blew out, and so essentially we started to do the entire thing in the dark with this rather inexpensive spot actually playing the role of a nightlight. It actually looks quite realistic. At the time, I thought the set looked really, really bad, but now actually looking back on it, it's quite real, to the point where I'm actually surprised to curl up for a nap halfway through the review. Certainly the book would have inspired it. This is our second set, so we spent 4 hours in Auckland doing the review at night. I went home to sleep because I'm a fallible human being, and we erected the second set based upon the lounge at my home in the same location the next day. So this is me at around about 8:30 in the morning, dragged out of bed, down to Britomart. Set was set up, and here I am reviewing the book once again. Got the Kindle device out, I'm reading it, you see my eyes are scanning backwards and forth. Turns out that whilst I'm reading, I move my lips an awful lot, so it does look like I'm talking to myself throughout the entire review, but actually what's going on there is I obviously have some kind of mouth malfunction, which means that whilst I'm actually working, I appear to be talking non-stop, but actually I'm just grinding my teeth. The book was that bad. I actually can imagine that the book led me to tooth grinding activity, but it's quite mysterious the way that I'm doing it through. Here we are. I get changed at one particular point in time. This lovely smoking jacket actually belonged to Agatha Christie. It was one of her favourite smoking jackets. We bought it at relatively trivial cost from a second-hand store in Staffordshire over in the UK, had it sent over here. That was what we used the last of the grant funding for. So grant funding used to build 2 elaborate sets, wear period costume from Agatha Christie, and buy a copy of Dan Brown's Inferno. I mean, really, actually, the kind of funding regime we've got in New Zealand is a bit weird. Here I am using funding to review a book by Dan Brown. I mean, surely this money should be going to the community. Maybe it should be going to funding more stuff on New Zealand On Air. It really shouldn't be going to a pretentious, pompous twat like me, who decides that he wants to review a book, Inferno, and actually ask for funding for the review of said book. I mean, actually, the more I think about it, the more ridiculous this entire thing becomes. And it's all been shot on an iPhone, these really elaborate, expensive sets, and shot on an iPhone. An iPhone 5, admittedly, but still, an iPhone. Anyway, the book itself isn't really much to write home about. The book is essentially something where Langdon just appears, does some art interpretation, and then buggers off back to Harvard.